It's time for Chai and Chat. Chai and Chat.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is still a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. As Time Goes By, a song by Dooley Wilson, who sang it in Casablanca. That song was written in 1931 for a Broadway musical, but became an iconic hit when this chap sang it as a film score for Casablanca. So what do you think of the words of the song, as time goes by?
So, Sundari, first of all, let me tell you about your singing. So you took me by surprise when we started this because you started singing. And actually, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with your singing. It's really good. Are you sure you haven't got auto-tune or something on your side?
Something, Ranjit? That's a hard song to sing.
Exactly. I was going to say that's very good.
Practice my breaths. Yeah.
I'm joking. That was really good. And, I wish I could sing.
Instead of me reading another poem, I thought we would, concentrate this time by talking about a film. And then instead of the poem, I thought I'd just sing the score to the film Casablanca.
That was very nice. Casablanca, the film. I've watched it many years ago. So refresh my memory. Tell me about the film.
So I've done a little bit of research, so it's not all these things are not just stored in my brain. That film was made in 1942, in the midst of World War II. So whether it was made as a propaganda film, who knows? But it's set in Casablanca in Morocco, which was under the control of the Vichy government. And basically, it's a love triangle between the character played by Humphrey Bogart, Rick, who owns a club. He's completely apolitical. He's just out for a buck, makes money from refugees, trying to find a better life in the US. And then the other chap he's Victor. I can't remember the actor who plays him, but he's a hero resistance leader who's looking to leave the country because the Nazis are after him, obviously. And then the love interest of both of them is played by Ingrid Bergman, who plays Ilsa. So she's torn between these two men, really. And I think this is a real love triangle, but of love and duty, this is. Rick is, in the end, ends up sacrificing profit for love, and he ends up joining the resistance. And Ilsa actually chooses duty over love because she wants to stay with Rick, but goes off with Victor. So it's interesting. The themes of this film are communicated through the most iconic and famous lines in cinema history. So if you don't mind, I'll tell you a few of the lines because they're just brilliant. As I say them to you, you'll go, I remember that. I remember that. And you know me, I love lines. So
that would be good, actually, to refresh my memory, because I remember watching this film probably about 20 years ago.
Yes, it's a black and white film, isn't it? Yes, and it's a long film. But this one, see if you remember this. Of all the gin joints in all the towns, in all the worlds, she walks into mine. Do you remember that line?
I remember
when
that
she
one,
walks into his bar. And then when he has a drink with her, he goes, here's looking at you, kid.
Yes,
that's another famous line. Yeah. And this next one I'm going to say, it's the one that's most misquoted. It's actually Ilsa who says it to Sam, who's playing the piano. Play it once, Sam, for old time's sake. And everybody goes, play it again, Sam. But I think the actual line is, play it once, Sam, for old time's sake. I'm sure maybe listeners might correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, because play it again, Sam, is what you hear. That's what people...
Yes, but I think it's famously misquoted. And this wonderful, very romantic. Ilsa again says it to Rick, kiss me as if it were the last time. That's a wonderful line. And
that's very sad.
When she's contemplating whether she's going to stay with Rick or go with her husband Victor, because she loves and adores Vic. That's a real sort of passionate love affair. And she also loves Victor, but it's far more of a duty because he's a heroic resistance fighter. But then, Rick wants her to stay, but he sacrifices it. And this is the lovely phrase: if that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life. And she says, but what about us? And he goes, we will always have Paris. It's just lovely, lovely lines. And then this one is very famous also, this line: round up all the usual suspects, which is what the chief of the Vichy police says. And obviously this line inspired the film The Usual Suspects, which is a very famous film in the 90s, I think, or the early 2000s. And the last kind of famous line is, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship between him and the chief of police, whom he doesn't normally get on. So just lovely, really. It's a compelling mix of performance, music, solid plot, amazing acting, obviously. Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart, how wonderful. And it's a classic film. It's always in the top 10, I think. And it's interesting, for a film that was made during the war and the plot was still being written, it's turned out to be so famous because I was reading about it, and apparently Ilsa, Ingrid Bergman, didn't know in the end what the ending was going to be, who she was going to end up with. The plot was still being written, and she only got her lines. They only knew right at the end. So how amazing is that? So it's a great film because, as I said, it's about so many things. Obviously, the World War, all the things that were happening then. But for me, I think it's a real story about love and duty and
There's
sacrifice.
so many things that you've just reminded me of in that film that I think I'm going to watch it again, because those lines, I think I've got confused with some of those. I thought they're from other films. So, as you say, I mean, it's quite iconic, and it's probably influenced other films as well. So some of those things that have been said. So love and duty is
yes,
a theme
love and
that runs throughout
duty.
it.
So yes, because I think our podcast and the things that we talk about, a lot to do with heritage and culture. So just wondering, it's just an opening line, really. Ranjit, what do you think your views are on sort of Western-centric ideas and South Asian diasporic take on marriage and the idea of love and duty? Because this is what Casablanca is about, but could easily apply to our cultures, can't it?
It's interesting. I mean, the film just makes me think of some of those old Bollywood films, the sort of Western ideals of love and duty in those Bollywood films are very similar as well. And even though the reality wasn't like that in South Asian culture in particular. So you've got things like marriage and the duty of marriage. In South Asian culture, arranged marriage has changed a lot over the last, I'd say, my lifetime to where we're now, where things aren't so strict as they used to be when I was younger, and that has changed quite a lot. So for example, my parents had an arranged marriage, so they got married in India and then actually moved over here in the 1960s, and then had to have another marriage here because to make it legal. After that, I think when I was younger, my teens, people were starting to have arranged marriages, but then it started becoming more flexible, introductory marriages. So people were introduced to one another. Essentially, marriage was not just the two individuals getting together. It was joining of two families. It's strange because I'll talk about my own circumstances, but I think the idea of arranged marriage is actually quite a good one. And I'll tell you about my thoughts on it in a moment. But tell me about you, though. What's your view on these things?
Yes, I think, just going back to that Western-centric and sort of South Asian diasporic-centric or immigrant population-centric in that sense, obviously when I'm going to talk about it, life is in black and white. But these sorts of ideas that both sides might have, that Western-centric view that marriage is about true love and personal autonomy, your choice and happiness is paramount. And as you were saying, with the South Asian diaspora, it's not just this union of two people, but of families as well. And the self is secondary in that sense. And, true duty requires you to understand that what you choose has a ripple effect on parents' social standing and the community. And obviously, in a lot of South Asian cultures, still there's that caste system as well. So it's not just marrying somebody from your race, but it's the caste and your faith as well. So, I mean, my parents, I think, went against the grain a little bit, in the sense they're from the same caste and obviously same religion as well. But it was a love marriage for, a time that many marriages weren't love marriages. And my father was younger than my mother. And
Okay.
social standing, of course, their families in terms of caste were equal, but my mum was a medic and dad was a teacher at the time. But my daddy won them over, obviously. But so they went against the grain a little bit, I think. And,
Yeah.
it was a very successful marriage. There's four of us. And I'm kind of proud of them. It makes me look up to them a little bit, that in a time when they must have challenged the norm views.
I mean, when I was younger, I used to think, arranged marriage wasn't the way forward, because two strangers coming together, having to get to know each other and sort of live together. And I think there was that notion that it was two people in love will develop. And I think it's not really that. It's like you're stuck together and you have to make the most of it. But I think those sorts of principles of having to stick with a relationship, making it work, those sort of things I think are quite important. And I think these days people don't have that so much. I mean, my own situation, marriage for gay people wasn't legal. So for many years. And so, and also, I didn't tell family and friends, and well, I told friends, but I didn't tell all my family to begin with. And so it was a tricky thing for me, because marriage wasn't a thing that we had. So myself and Adrian, when we first got together, which was 30 years ago, we just lived together. People just thought we were friends. Well, that's what we told people as well. But then we did finally get married only a few years ago, and that was in just after lockdown. So what do you think, Sundari? What do you think about marriage?
Right. Well, first of all, I two things that you said I just want to pick up on, really. When you talked about, gay marriage, congratulations to you and Adrian. You were able to get married. But you were together probably for as long as Simon and I've been together, but we were able to get married. With Simon and me, obviously Simon is, from Derbyshire. He's a Derbyshire lad.
Okay.
But in many ways, he always laughs. He always says he would have been the perfect pick for my family anyway, because our families would have matched. And educationally, we would have matched. And if there was a caste system, he would have matched. So the only thing he says, it's only because I'm white. But it all worked out. My family completely embraced Simon. But there was precedent already, because my brother also married a girl from an English girl as well. And then there were, in the sort of professional classes in Malaysia, a lot of families, when their children had come abroad, they did meet other people. And I think families were embracing that a little bit more. But your talk about gay marriage, and then looking back and just thinking about Casablanca, there are a lot of times, where there were women or men who lived together as friends. And we used to think, oh, those uncle and aunties, they're just good friends living together. And it was possibly because they were in a gay relationship, but, weren't allowed to, announce it. And now, knowing all the things I know now, I have a different view on that. And it's wonderful they were able to do it, but at the same time, it's a little bit. Yes.
I've got to tell you something funny, actually. Where I live, we've lived here for 23 years, 24 years. And the local area, there's quite a lot of Asian people who live around here. It's quite mixed, actually. But a lot of the Asian families, they're all connected. They all chat to each other. And it was just because I bumped into somebody who knew my situation with Adrian, and I said, what do people think about us on this estate? And they said, oh, everyone thinks you're brothers. And I went, well, hold on, I'm Asian, he's white. And they went, yeah, they think you're white. Which I thought was so funny, that they think that we're brothers and we just live together, but everyone knows, so they're fine with it. So
I think it's because you have a very sort of English British accent that they may have assumed that maybe. I didn't know. I didn't meet you then, so I don't know what you looked like. Ranjit.
I was walking the dog. I live on a canal, and I was walking the dog down the canal. I don't live on a canal. My house is about 20 yards back from the canal. So I was walking the dog along the canal, and this one of the neighbours is walking along, and she says something to me in Punjabi. Well, I thought she was talking to me. She was talking to herself. So I just responded in Punjabi. She was a bit surprised that I spoke Punjabi. She said, "Do you speak Punjabi?" I went, "Yes, only a little bit." I said, "Not very well." And then and that opened up. I think everyone realised that I was Asian. So, but yeah, going back to marriage and duty. And this is the reason why I say arranged marriage. I quite like the concept of it, because I think having all those things in your background sorted out, because that's what happens with arranged marriage. You know, the families match, they look at sort of backgrounds. You're not going to have that clash, because so often people get together and then they introduce their families to each other. There's a bit of tension and conflict, like, oh, that person's not good enough for you, or you're better education wise. And that's why I think the caste system was one of those things that helped as well, because it's people from not too dissimilar backgrounds. But I mean, I have issues with the caste system anyway, because I think, you know, nowadays, well, what is it? If you're a farmer, you're not going to stay as a farmer. If you're a shoemaker, you're not staying as a shoemaker. You're going to do different things. So I think that marriage and the roles, and I mean, it's complex, isn't it?
It is complex, Ranjit. But you talking about arranged marriage just made me think. I don't know whether you've seen. Was it on Netflix? I wasn't sure. Amazon. Remember Indian Matchmaker?
Oh yes,
Auntie Sima.
Oh, I loved her.
Absolutely. That was all about arranged marriages.
Yes.
But they're these wealthy families, and they were diasporic families who lived in the US and in England and, you know, lots of other countries. Well, mostly in the US, wasn't it? And then she also did it in India. Yeah. But they, you know, families were very interested in, you know, having marriages between you know, the boy and the girl who were similar. And the participants, the young people, they seemed very keen on it as well. So I just found that series fascinating, apart from Auntie Sima being magic.
Oh, come back to Auntie Sima in a minute. But I think if I was if I was younger now and gay marriage was legal, and we're at the situation we're at now, but 30 years ago, and I hadn't met Adrian, I'd have a gay arranged marriage, because I think I've been brought up to sort of see the good in people and to work through things. My friends, over the years, you know, one little thing would happen and they would dump the person they were with. And I'd be like, hold on, you're not going to work through that. It's like, no, that's it. I'm never going to forgive them. Some friends are still single because of that, because they just found little problems in people and they didn't grow and sort of flex with that. And I think that happens in arranged marriage. You're forced to stay together and work through those things, unless it's really bad. I do think one of the problems of arranged marriage was that if it was a very abusive relationship, people didn't feel they could leave because of family honour and duty and what would people say. And, you know, there was a lot of that going on. And I think thankfully that doesn't happen so much now. People have the freedom and they know that they can get out of a situation if they want to. But yeah, if they had it in gay marriages, and I'd want Auntie Sima to sort mine out. In fact, I would just keep on saying no to people so I could continue the relationship with Auntie Sima.
Oh, you know what? She would then send your face. You remember that man who reads faces? He would read your face and he would go, that chap has no commitment. He can't commit to anything. He only thinks about himself.
That face reader was the best. I want to know who
the face reader.
Who is he was so accurate.
He was. It was brilliant.
Do you remember that one? There was that woman from America, and she was really, she was not going to go. That's the one. And she was just.
She was. I'm not having him. I'm not having him. And was she the one who did goat yoga with somebody?
I can't remember, but the face reader sussed her out straight away. I thought to myself, "Oh my God, where's his number?" He was perfect. He's just like, I don't know how he does it.
I know, it was brilliant. Yeah. Talking about this idea of you were saying with non-arranged marriages, perhaps, or people are just being flighty. Yeah. You know, the smallest thing they say, I'm off. And I think I'll tell you a funny line is whenever people found out Simon was married to me, his people he met, probably from the South Asian diaspora, used to say, "Oh, you're very lucky. You're married to a nice Tamil girl. They're very faithful." And he used to come home and tell me that, and I'm going, "You better just behave yourself, Otherwise, I might be off. That nice Tamil girl might not be here. You better you better step up.
Yeah, I think it's those. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, for a white person to marry somebody who is not from their culture as well, and the things they have to deal with. I mean, Adrian, he has a lot of people who don't know his situation. So first of all, they don't know he's gay, and then they don't know he's married to an Asian man. So it's like it's quite interesting that sometimes people will say things that are homophobic. Sometimes they'll say things that are racist about Asian people. He's got a kitchen and bathroom business, so he has to go around people's houses and he'll do like quotes and measures, and people will say things, and then he'll walk away and think, no, I'm not doing their work for them because of what they've said. But it's interesting, isn't it, that sort of how people view other people's relationships. I think if people are happy, leave them to it.
I mean, it's great how Adrian's done it, because he didn't have to take a stand against these people.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we've talked about this idea that are we autonomous beings really, in the sense that as people, or are we a product of our families and our community? Because I think the idea of marriage comes into that. Because if you are totally autonomous, there are values that say, Western-centric values maybe, equates to maturity and self-reliance, whereas they might think if you don't, you're non-autonomous in that sense. But it's the idea that in immigrant and diasporic populations, autonomy might be interpreted as rejection of family and love values. I know it's not shades of shades of grey. It's not black and white, but a lot of people still hold those sorts of views. I think, it's like people have racist views or homophobic views. There are these sorts of views still till they meet somebody who challenges it, either in what they've done or asks the questions of them. Really, yeah.
I think we're in a weird place at the moment where there are so many different ways of thinking about relationships as well. So, I mean, you have people in non-monogamous relationships, so polyamorous relationships. How do they navigate those relationships and stay together? And some people, they say it keeps their relationship really fresh and lively. But then I watch things like, well, I don't watch this, but Love Island. Do you watch Love Island?
I have watched it in the past. Once you start watching, you become addicted to it. So this season, I haven't watched it, but I have watched it past, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I've not watched it. I've not watched any of the seasons, but Adrian watches it, and my nieces watch it. So they talk to Adrian about it, and they're all talking about it, and I'm like, but it's so fake, and it's like they have to couple up with somebody else, and I think, what's that all about? But then again, it's a bit like I said about arranged marriage. It's like finding the good in people, finding that bit that you can click with, I guess. So look at me, I'm talking myself into it. I'll be watching them all later.
Yes, I mean, Simon and I found out that we started watching it because the girls were watching it, and then they were talking, and then we were out of the conversation. So we started watching it, and then you think it's easy watching, so we watch it. Really, I think of it, it's not real. It's pretend. Everybody there is beautiful. They've I think it's been used as a platform to raise their profile. And if they do get married or stay together, that's lovely. But for me, it's a reality show.
I love the fact that everyone who's on that show only had to take hand luggage. Because have you seen their outfits? I mean, I'm sorry, they're walking around in underwear. That's all they're doing all day. I mean, they probably turned up with like a small little hand luggage case, and it's like, you're here for 2 weeks. Or how many weeks? It's a long time, isn't it?
I think there's a lot of sponsoring of their clothing by lots of
I don't
labels.
Well, I mean, a label is what they're probably wearing. It's like so skimpy, some of it. It's like, where do you look? Having to sit around in your underwear all day and have conversations around a fire pit, I think.
Well, that's why you have to have the body beautiful to do that, really.
Exactly.
because I mean, the whole thing is, you see, this is obviously not Casablanca. I mean, it's not about love and duty. It's a show about sex and.
But young people are watching that, and they're seeing things on social media, and they're seeing all these ideals about what a relationship should be, and they're thinking, okay, body beautiful, money, it's got to be all everything. And I think these things are affecting young people more and more, so they're not staying in relationships. Do you think that's?
I don't know. I think of it. I look at it and think lots of young people will probably have the intelligence to know that this is just a show, and they love the outfits and they love the gossip, but they know their lives are not like that. I see it slightly differently. I know I
Okay.
have friends who have the same opinion as you, but I see it as young people. They've got all the tools to know what this is about. It might be about looks, it might be about other things, but I think
Yeah.
they realise it's a
See, I'm always
reality.
very optimistic, but now I listen to you, Sundari, you always make me think, actually, there's a further step that I can go to. Because, yeah, I do agree with you. I think, I hope some people think, but I think subconsciously people do pick up on those things and think, oh, yeah, it has to be everything. It has to be perfect. I think no relationship is ever perfect to begin with.
No.
It develops, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. As I've got this sort of mantra of saying, I do say to people, remember the reasons you came together in the first place, and try and discover them. Obviously, if it's abusive or other things have gone on,
Yeah.
who are we to know about what happens in a relationship? But if you can find that, and if there are things that you can work out, that's great. But if you don't want to, as we say, you have autonomy in this country, and people can be autonomous, but I'm sure hopefully people weigh things out, because
Yeah.
breaking up is painful as well. It's not easy,
Costly as
so it
well.
is costly and painful. So I'm sure, well, I hope people are not doing it lightly, because you weigh things up, but in the end, people have to make that decision that they're happy with, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they would have thought about it a long time before they've done that. I'm talking about people who've been in much longer term relationships, not the 2 week or the
Do you
1 month.
anyone who's had like multiple relationships, multiple times they've got married?
Yes, I do know somebody.
So I've got a friend like that as well. It's quite funny because me and Adrian say they must like wedding cake. They're on their
They call
third or fourth.
serial sort of one-time partnerships that they like.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's partnerships is fine, but it's when they go through the whole process of marriage and then divorce and
I
marriage and
think
divorce.
maybe they're ultimately hopeless romantic, always thinking
Yeah.
it's going to end, it's going to be beautiful and last forever.
Yeah.
But some people, relationships only stay for a certain length of
Yeah.
time, and I think in some relationships children do make a difference, I think, as well. But that's a very Asian thing, isn't it? In that
That's true
for
as
the
well.
good of the children.
Yeah.
We talked about work-life balance, and we talked about work and family in Asian families. So not to say it's only Asian, but yes, that.
Yeah, I think in Asian families you're sort of brought up with this way of thinking. I mean, that's how I was brought up, In fact, I actually thought I'd get married. I didn't think it was to be a woman, but I thought I'd get married, have children, I'd do this, do that. That was how your life pans out. And it was only when I sort of came out and realised that wasn't really going to happen for me that I realised actually there's a different way that I'm going to live my life, but it's still those traditional values are still there underneath.
I'm going to make you laugh, because me growing up in Malaysia, I never thought I was ever, I never thought about getting married at all. I don't know whether you've ever heard of the Mary Tyler Moore show,
No.
but I thought I would be like Mary Tyler Moore with a fabulous job. I would either live in Toronto in an apartment, and that would be my fabulous life, really, with lots of clothes and things. And marriage, I was far. That's how I saw a fabulous life, really. Yes.
You
So
read a lot of books, though, didn't you? So you're into a lot of fiction.
yes, and I think it was actually very freeing to be that way, because I never felt any pressure, really. I think with this episode, I think we've gone from introducing it from Casablanca, the idea, the fundamental idea behind that film, I thought, was love and duty and marriage. And, it's nice that we've had a discussion around that. Obviously, we brought in the Indian matchmaker and Auntie Sima. But it's whether, young people going forward will see that there's so many different ways of being together, really. There's choice, but also community, there's family. And the freer you are, in the sense of, you communicate with your parents and your children, what you don't want is for parents to want one thing, and then they can, especially children who've been brought up in this country, they have different values, and you don't want to alienate your children. It's the communication that's really important, and to see what's important to both of you. But ultimately, you are the parent. You have to have your child's best interest at heart, really. and embrace whom they feel there is a partner, and try to see if there was a way of making it work to integrate them into the family and the community. Yes.
That's right. And I think for individuals as well, it's about doing what works for you, because you have to live with that person. It's your life. And so regardless if families are very strict or telling you what to do, or other people, friends do the same. Friends tell you what you need to do. Actually, you should do what you want to do, because you have to live that life. You only have one life, so you have to live it. You've married not in the same culture. I've married a man. So both of us have had to deal with struggles and challenges, especially in this country where people do look at you because you're different in some ways. So I think, we've done things that made us happy. And that's the main thing.
The story about us Simon and me being together, especially when we were the children, is, I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but when we go into a restaurant together, they always think I'm with the children, and then they look at him separately and going, "Table for you, sir." And there's the idea of actually we're all together.
Yeah.
So we get that a little bit, and it still it's, you can't get irritated, white or non-white. Lots of people make those sorts of judgments.
Recently, myself, Adrian, my nephew and nieces, we went to Disneyland Paris, and it was quite funny because I was saying,
right, melded family there.
I was like, how are they going to work all this out? Because my nieces are mixed heritage, white and Asian. My nephew, he is white on Adrian's side, Adrian's brother's child, so with blonde hair. But nobody actually looked at us, actually. That's Disneyland Paris for you, though, which is a fantastic place, and I can't wait to go again.
Go again.
And if they want us to go and do a podcast from there, we'll definitely do one.
Oh, absolutely. From the rides, maybe.
Yeah.
Can I dress as a princess, maybe?
You can. Everyone gets dressed up. There's loads of people get dressed up.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a show for another day. But Auntie Sima, we should have had her on this show. That would have been the best. So,
or the man who read our faces.
The face reader, yes. That could be another show as well. But anyway, we've come to the end of our time. Yeah. So, in terms of Casablanca and the film, I'm going to be watching that film. I think that's the outcome for me for today. And just make note of all those lines as well, those famous lines.
Yes, well, my note today is, once again, one gets challenged to think about concepts for our podcast, and thank you again for letting me do this, and I was able to revisit Casablanca and the theme. I think we've kind of interlocked the theme of the film and our sort of heritage and diasporic angle that we're coming from. So I think it's been quite nice.
Lovely chatting to you, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Shy and Chat.